KD Davis. And also time to discuss, of course, the American Championship game, Tulane and UCF, and the voice of UCF Athletics, friend of the show, and Marc Daniels joins us on 365 Sports. Man, this seems to be a great matchup, Mark, and just your thoughts about UCF being in this game.
Well, guys, it's been a whirlwind of emotion the last couple of weeks for UCF. The Knights had themselves in position to win the conference and then host the conference championship game, and then stumbled when we lost to Navy at home and lost control of their destiny, and then didn't know what the scenarios may be like. And one of the scenarios was 4 computers that used to be used in the BCS model. Could that be a tiebreaker? And then UCF just had to go play until the college football playoff rankings came out last week. And to the shock of many people, UCF found themselves in the rankings, and it changed everything from a tiebreaker standpoint, and I think changed emotionally for UCF. And then you get a rivalry football game, and you get off to a 28-0 start. You think you're cruising. And then, as everybody knows, rivalry games, weird stuff happens. John Rice Plumlee, the UCF quarterback, has a hamstring injury. He comes out. Next thing you know, you go from up 31-7 to down 39-38 with 2 minutes to go, and you've got to find a way to win. And UCF did with an incredible catch by their tight end, Alec Holler, getting a foot down and making a one-handed grab, and you survive. And with that, you get a return trip to Tulane, where they've had an outstanding season, a really good football team. UCF was fortunate to win there a few weeks ago. Now we got to go back there and do it again. But it's 60 minutes for a chance to win a conference championship and get to the Cotton Bowl.
Mark, who is going to play quarterback this week? Is it going to be Plumlee, or is it going to be Orlando's favorite son now?
We'll find out. I mean, Gus Malzahn made it clear a couple times now in media opportunities that if John Rice Plumlee can go, he'll go, but it really is how the week progresses. And today's Wednesday. Tomorrow will be the last kind of official practice, and then we'll just have to see. I think, UCF is preparing for both, meaning if John Rice can't go, Mikey Keene's ready to go. If John Rice does play, Mikey Keene will be ready to play. So it's just one of those things that you may not know until that first series. May come down to how he warms up. Clearly, UCF hopes that he can go. He was a huge factor in the first football game in beating Tulane as a run threat with a long touchdown run. He had a 64-yard touchdown run last week against South Florida. But Mikey Keene's kind of been the Mariano Rivera, the closer for you. He played a big role in UCF's win against Cincinnati when he came into the game. When Plumlee went down with an injury, he won the football game starting at Memphis, and then led UCF on the touchdown-winning drive against South Florida Saturday. So, Gus Malzahn has said he's got 2 starting quarterbacks. Each offers something different. Rice is a run threat, but, Keene's been in big moments as well for UCF.
Mark, what concerns you, or what are you kind of eyeing when it comes to the Green Wave? As you mentioned, already seen him recently, know the deal kind of there, but, a few weeks later, what's kind of your thought process when you look at the challenge that Willie Fritz and company present?
Well, just some basic things. It's hard to beat somebody twice in a season, and then to do it at their place 2 times is quite challenging. There's a lot to respect about Tulane. This is a legitimate football team. Beat Kansas State, had the odd loss against Southern Miss, and then battled us. I mean, we needed a 16-play, 85-yard drive in 8 minutes to steal the football game against them earlier. They've got a dangerous quarterback in Michael Pratt. Tajay Spears is a phenomenal running back, almost 1,200 yards. Now, he got dinged up in the second half against us. Wasn't as big of a factor, but he was a big factor in their win at Cincinnati last week. So they've got some really good playmakers. And, guys, they spread the ball. They've got 7 wide receivers or tight ends with 20 or more catches. They don't have one dominant guy, but they got a bunch of guys with 20 or more. And then 2 really good linebackers that I think are going to play on Sunday, a secondary with some depth as well. So some things come into play. Look, both teams can look back at that game. And for UCF, they made a couple of turnovers. If they don't turn the ball over, they could have won by 3 touchdowns. If you're Tulane, they made some mistakes and felt like, hey, if we didn't turn the ball over, maybe we could have been in a position to play from the lead. So, look, UCF's an underdog. Tulane, rightfully so, I think is a favorite at home. There's some pressure on them for a program that has not been in this position in recent years to win a conference championship and get to a major bowl game. UCF has had that spot, although on this football team, there's a couple of guys that played in the Peach Bowl back in 2018, but not like 15 or 20 guys. So, I think it's a great opportunity for both. And, Tulane's earned the right to be home and an outstanding season. but I think UCF certainly looks forward to the opportunity to go there and try to win a championship.
Do you think, even though it did not materialize, the Willie Fritz story to Georgia Tech, which did not happen, do you feel like that is any kind of distraction for them?
Probably not, because his resolution to it, I think if the story was still out there, meaning wait for the weekend and after the game to make a decision, maybe it becomes a distraction. But I think since that matter has been resolved, it's funny. Brent Q got the job at Georgia Tech. He's a former UCF assistant, and UCF may have helped him get the job because after UCF beat Georgia Tech, another former assistant at UCF, Jeff Collins, got fired, and Brent had a chance to coach 8 games. As you guys know, sometimes an interim coach gets 1 or 2 games, doesn't get a chance to win over the football team. But Brent had 8 games, ended up getting the job. Very happy for him. Got to know Brent very well when he was here. Extremely a smart guy, and he'll do well. But I think for Tulane, they got resolution to it. Willie Fritz is a really good coach, guys. 195 wins. He does a phenomenal job with his football team. Terry Mahajer, our AD, almost tried to hire him for a job before, and it just didn't work out. We've got tremendous respect. Gus knows Willie, and obviously there's a lot of respect there. So they're a very well-coached team, as you would think, from Tulane, and it starts with their head coach.
That last game was a really good one, and they are very physical. Do you think that is the balance of how this game shifts, or do you think that UCF can kind of mud it up with them again?
I think, it sounds basic, guys, but I think the team that has success running the football, UCF ran the ball effectively at the start of that football game, then ran it late when they relied on our big running back, Isaiah Ballinger, to kind of grind it out. There was an odd 4th down play that we thought we'd get a call that they jumped offside. There wasn't a flag, and there was a pass interference that extended that 8-minute drive. But for them, it's Tajay Spears. He had 135 yards, 70 came on one play. UCF did a pretty good job on him outside of that, but he was dinged up a bit in the second half. So I do think it comes down to which team is effective running the ball, limits penalties and turnovers. And then I always think in games like this, there's 2 odd plays, whether it's a trick play, whether it's a long return that flips the field. I think every one of these games has a few odd plays, and I think the team that executes one or stops one sometimes gets an advantage. Both teams will tweak some things for the first time they played. And like I said, I think both teams could feel like they should have won either by a greater margin or, Tulane's side would have been, hey, if we don't make mistakes, then we could have had the lead. And, that's what championship games are supposed to be about. I think they're 2 evenly matched teams. Is there a big advantage because UCF has won there before? I don't know if it's a big advantage, but I do think familiarity with the locker room, the sideline, and so forth. There's a nice little fan fight going on now about, ticket distribution, and was the game sold out? Was it not? Did we give tickets back? And UCF took a ton of folks the last time to New Orleans, even though a short week to turn it around. I think they'll travel well, but as I understand, Tulane expects maybe their largest crowd ever in their stadium.
Marco, what kind of feeling was there around the fact that this might have been the last War on I-4 game for a while? I know it's not, Harvard-Yale in terms of history, but there's definitely some history there, and obviously these 2 programs are about to go their separate ways. Was there anything kind of special or unique about this last game there, what might be the last game for a while between USF and UCF?
Well, the game was insane. Again, a 28-0 lead for UCF, and then you're down 39-38. So the game itself was crazy, and one that fans can talk about for quite some time. And if you're a UCF fan, you're grateful that they pulled it out because of everything that was on the line to get to a conference championship game. Look, the fan and the broadcast for me would love to see the series continue for many reasons. The proximity of the 2 schools, players that have competed from Pop Warner in high school and know each other well. Most of the fan reaction, which is somewhat, good, a little bit over the top sometimes. I think that's good and healthy. So that part of me wishes it continues. There's the business side, guys, that we've talked about before, of expansion, realignment, and money that you just understand makes it really difficult. Of no fault of South Florida, before UCF was invited to the Big 12, the league plays an 8-game conference schedule. So they went out to fill their conference schedule with as many non-conference games as they can. UCF actually had some vacancies. We had a hard time getting people to come here to play. South Florida took more 2-for-1s. We didn't really want to take as many or take any. And then moving to the Big 12 at 9 conference games, not as many games for us to fill. South Florida's Alabama coming to Tampa next year. It's part of a 2-for-1 deal. They just don't have any openings. And for UCF, we're running out of openings as well. So it's going to make it difficult, I think, in the foreseeable future for the two teams to play. It's not impossible. Both athletic directors have openly talked about a desire to make it happen. But when it comes down to, are you going to get out of this game or that game? And guys, you know better than me. When you got 9 conference games the year that you've got only 4 home, 5 on the road, you need as many home games because we all got budgets to balance. So that's, a factor that comes in to play there. There's a small little part, and I say a small little part, that UCF fans won't forget. Years ago, when then South Florida President Judy Genschaft lobbied to block UCF's move as a football-only school of the Big East. She successfully did that, and UCF fans won't forget that because it was their attempt to kind of leave UCF behind. So there's the other side that says, see ya.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where you are now.
Yeah, and Mark, I know there's this game, and there's a bowl game, but the momentum, even with the loss to Navy, that was kind of shocking, but that's a team hard to prep for. The thoughts that here you're 2 games away from being basically a member of the Big 12 in football as soon as the bowl game wraps up. How much of that momentum is still there?
Oh, I think there's a ton of it. Guys, look, I'm a believer, and this is my 28th year at UCF. I think a big reason why UCF was able to gain and keep respect in the college football playoff rankings is because they're headed to the Big 12. I think the additional coverage, that affiliation beginning to sink in, I think was a big part of it. That's why there was a shock of when UCF lost to Navy, like, well, they're not going to be ranked anymore. And I can give you the football reasons why they were still ranked 2 top 25 wins over Cincinnati and Tulane. Louisville got into the top 25. We played it earlier in the season. But I do think the building of UCF's brand from the success of 2017 and 18 and on, and I do think headed towards the Big 12 kind of help now begin to paint the image of who UCF is. It's not typical of G5 teams having 3 losses and still being ranked. So I think that all played a factor in it. And now UCF finds itself in a spot to try to win their 5th title in 10 years of the American. And if they're fortunate to do that, get to play in a major bowl game and ride that momentum after this game into what we all know is going to be kind of a crazy world of the transfer portal, recruiting, and then hopefully a major bowl game. And I think that's the way that UCF was looking for headed into the Big 12 next year.
Hey, what was your reaction to Luke Fickell going to Wisconsin? Obviously, you guys know each other, not the conference, Cincinnati, and they're headed to the Big 12. But the fact that he's now at Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of respect for Luke. He did a phenomenal job. The first football game against UCF that he faced was in 2017, where it was so lopsided after a lengthy rain delay. The parties agreed to not play the final 7 minutes of the game because it was so lopsided. They wanted to go back out there and to grow from where they were then to become, the dominant team in the American for the last 2+ years is a compliment to him. I'm just guessing from a distance to a degree that Luke may have felt like he peaked at Cincinnati, which I think is a great program. I think is a great job for whoever gets it, and they ride momentum into the Big 12. Maybe he felt for himself personally, can I get any better than what I did last year? The expectations, maybe a certain level, what may be realistic with everybody transitioning to a very competitive league. And maybe he just felt like, hey, chance to get a massive payday at a place that has even more resources. Maybe it was just the right step for him. But I think, as everybody knows, that program set a great history of hiring good coaches that keep it going. And I think the foundation's in place there with good facilities, a very talented base of recruiting around there, and a lot of good players coming back, that whoever gets it, I think, is in a really good spot. And I don't think Cincinnati's about to take steps back. I think that there's a base there that guys like Luke Fickell and others built that kind of helped it be competitive year in and year out.
Mark, great stuff. Thank you. Can't wait for next year. And, of course, we have you on multiple times since the announcement and all the speculation back in the fall of 2021. We appreciate it. Good luck this weekend.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Playing at Yulman Stadium in New Orleans, which is a really nice place that they have for Tulane. Willie Fritz and what he's done.